Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I hope you're doing all okay, guys, out there. Another great weekend of NFL. Only two of us on today's show, but it's okay. Adam and Ash will be back soon. Just me and Andrew here this evening. Apologies, I am a little bit under the weather, not the big C, just a little under the weather. So if I get a bit croaky or coffee at points, I do apologize. Don't be worried. Just it's the havoc that happened on the weekend that has now made me still feel ill. So don't worry, it's just a prolonged hangover, really, if anything. But I'm not doing too great. But the NFL, I've caught back up on Andrew. We spoke a little bit about it on the night. However, like I said, I was a little unavailable on Sunday, having a bit too much fun elsewhere. But you watched all the games back to back. You stayed up late, obviously, for the Giants Washington game earlier in the week. What a great 2 weeks we've had. I mean, this has just been the second week was even better than the first week. I mean, how many games went to the wire? It was so good.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for much more. I think there was even the games where you kind of weren't really interested in, or kind of just had on in the background. They were exciting. There's not been many dull games. I think there's maybe you could probably count on one hand how many dull games have been. All the rest to go into the wire. So interesting, really good for the neutral fan of or just NFL fan. So yeah. Even my game on the Thursday night, although it didn't go the way I wanted it to, it was so exciting all the way to the end. I think I've lost a bit more hair on the top from watching it, but it was good.
Well, we said in the prediction show, in the preview show on Sunday, me and Adam, we were going through the fixtures, and we were saying like, there's so many close games here that could be so exciting. The Rams Colts game that lived up to the hype, real close, really good game. Saints Panthers we thought could be a lot closer game, but that's ended up Panthers blowout really. The Cardinals Vikings only a point in that game. I mean, games across 3 points in the Titans Seahawks game, 3 points in the Cowboys Chargers game, a point in the Chiefs Ravens game. It just shows you. We said this in the predictions episodes that we did prior to the season, and we've said it a lot on this. It's so hard to do these predictions and things like that, and to say what teams are definitely going to be great and definitely going to be bad. And is the NFL now more competitive than it has ever been? Because you look around, look at the Raiders, top of their division. There's all these teams that are being really good at the start of the year here. It's so competitive. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah, I definitely think it's probably the most competitive so far already. One of the most competitive seasons we've seen. Like you say, it's very hard to call it. Usually there's a select sort of 10 teams. You like they're a cert sort of every week unless they come up against one of the other 10 that you're talking about. But that seems to have changed now. There seems to be a scope of like, there's not that these are Super Bowl bound, these are your middle ground, and then you've got your rebuild. It's rebuild team, which there's like maybe a handful of, and the rest have all got a chance on their day. The coaches that are in the head coaches, coming in, and the personnel in college football, I feel like it's got better. So the rookies coming in seem a lot more ready than they used to be in the past. So yes, definitely so much more competitive.
Obviously, usually we go around all of us talking about the points that we took from the weekend and have a bit of an open discussion about. Obviously, only us two tonight. We both do have a point to discuss. However, I'm sure our conversation will take us here, there, and there, and everywhere to talk about the season. But because it is just the two of us, and it's great when me and you get together and we talk some football because we watch so much of it and we enjoy it so much. But why don't we get started with your point? And it is a team. I know it's a team that I really want to talk about a lot because I've championed this team now for 2 seasons and really thought that this team could take the push to the next level. We were unsure about it. It looks that way, but they're pushing to their next level.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because when I mentioned to you, obviously I wanted to talk about this team. I think you're going to want to talk about them in a different light.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay.
I think they are probably one of the most exciting teams to watch at the moment, but I'm still not sold on them. I've not been their biggest fan. I don't know
Mm.
why, but there's something that just niggles me. And I went through it over today, and I went over in my head, and I remember the start of like last season saying like, "Oh, they're exciting to watch. Get them in your fantasy team. All this." And it didn't pan out for them last year. It didn't pan out for them the year before.
Mm.
And there's something that's just sort of worrying me again this year. Like I said, they do look exciting. They are very exciting to watch. But you take a look at their fixture against the Vikings. They didn't win that game. The Vikings lost it. They missed a chip shot right at the end. The kicker shanked it. That should have been a win in the Vikings column and a loss in the Cardinals column. Instead, they're 2-0. They're the team that everybody's talking about. They're the team that everybody's excited about. Kyler Murray has played absolutely fantastic. He looks so good. But just looking at their schedule, and bar next week, I think they will go 3-0, and I think the buzz will still be there. But then they go to the Rams, the 49ers, the Browns. They've got Green Bay. They've got Houston, San Francisco again. That is that is tough. A tough set of games. So I think, come sort of by the time they get to their bye week, I think we might be having a different conversation. I think by the time they get to bye week in week 12, we could have seen them lose 6 games.
Hmm.
I think they could be 6-6, and then that really worries me that the other teams in their division, I feel, are stronger, and I feel like for me they're the 2-0 team that might not qualify for the playoffs.
I definitely thought you were going to come into this a bit more positive. I'll be honest. I was not prepared for the negativity
Yeah.
that you're giving on my Arizona Cardinals here. I have several points to make on this. Excuse me, sorry. And they're going to probably pop up here and there and everywhere on this. My first thing is the Cardinals last year were a team that were exciting and really good. But they came up against these teams that were equally as good, or if not better. And we've talked about this before on this podcast. You are becoming a successful team when you are easily beating the teams on par and then getting them wins against the teams that are better than you. Now, last year they were 50-50 on some of them games. There was games, the Buffalo game is a prime example of clutch play, last minute, that throw to DeAndre Hopkins. Like, how incredible was that to win in that? Like, they beat the Bills, and the Bills last year, everyone was in their mind they're going to be an AFC Championship game team. They're going to go there. Now, the Cardinals, the problem is last year is they won some of them big games, but they did lose a lot of them 50-50 ones. They lose the silly games. Yes, the Vikings lost the game against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals did well to get to where they got to. And it's just them little 50-50 wins that push you over the top a little bit more. Now, they've done it in week 2 against the Vikings. Like I said, Vikings do miss the field goal. He shanks it. But the Cardinals did ultimately put in a good performance. Kyler Murray has been fantastic, which leads me onto another point. The Cardinals, I do feel, we're going to see it because it's going to happen. It's very much Kyler Murray is going to have to be great week on week, because I don't feel like they can put the ball on Chase Edmonds and James Conner's hands to win them games. But maybe what is different about this year is maybe they can put it into the defense's hands and they can win them some games. I'm not too sure yet. We're definitely going to see it. That is going to happen for sure. This is only a matter of time before we're going to have a game where Kyler Murray is completely nullified. Now, he tends to not be nullified very often. He is so good with his feet. He can be incredibly accurate, and he's not making loads of silly plays, which I'm liking his progression. Each year he seems to be progressing in the right direction. That's upwards, which is great. I'm really happy about that for him. But what will be the clutch thing, and what will be the thing I think that is going to be telling about this Cardinals team is when they come into them games, them 50-50 games that they should be winning, or them games where Kyler isn't on his day, he's being shut down. Is the defense going to be the ones that can step up? Now, we criticized how they were bringing in veterans, and we were, at the start of the year, we all said, I don't really get why they're bringing veterans. Got a load of young guys. They're meant to be trying to be like a prime playoff team. They're trying to be not, sneaking in is not the right word, but you definitely wouldn't have them in that top 4 spot going through. They're probably going to get a wild card spot. They've brought in this older talent, and it seems to be working. I mean, AJ Green is being utilized there. He's given space for Christian Kirk to play. Rondell Moore, I mean, he had a bit of a breakout game the other day. The rookie, he wasn't exactly touted as being an amazing wide receiver, but a very good slot guy and very fast and very physical. He had a really good game for them. I can see your negativity. I can understand it. I can understand where it's going. I just think this team needs them 6 weeks, like you said. It's these clutch games against the Browns. If they can beat people like the Browns, if they can beat people like Green Bay.
I also think when you're talking about the veterans, it's week 2. The veterans are still fresh. They're still good. They're the team, to me, that's going to be most susceptible to injuries. They're going to be the team, to me, that, come the back end of the year, are the veterans going to be on the field as much. And
Mm,
that's another thing that worries me, because we've seen it with them before. They start off well, they look great, and they fade away, and we stop talking about them. And it just seems to be a repeat of it again.
mm.
I've got lots of question marks with them, and out of the 2-0 teams, it's the one I'm flagging up. Like I said, their division, I think, is just too strong for them to
Mm.
be 50-50.
No, you're right. That division is, well, it's the highest division in football. Seattle have looked so impressive coming out the gate. San Francisco coming out the gate have looked really great as well. I still think there is some, they definitely need some improvement in some areas. There's some weird scenarios going on here. That's 49ers. What is going on with Trey Sermon and Brandon Ayuk? Because there's something going on there. There is something going on. They can't be questionable 1 week, just not suiting up. Oh, we're going to play them, but barely used Ayuk in the last game. I'm only basing that off. I didn't watch the full game, but I've seen his fantasy
Yeah,
points. Weren't good.
there's
Like,
things been said about him, isn't there? There's been comments saying he needs to grow up, and
mm,
he needs to focus more about what's on the field. So I don't know whether, I said to Adam on one of the shows that we did together, that I don't know whether there's been a spat in the locker room, or a fight, or some
mm,
immaturity gone on behind the scenes. But it seems to be the youngsters that are sitting out because of attitude problems, which I know San Francisco will be absolutely fantastic at keeping it behind closed doors.
mm.
But yeah, there's a couple of warning signs there, I think.
And then you got the Rams as well. And Stafford, I mean, dude, imagine if his career was at a good team.
Yeah,
Like, imagine if his whole career was at a team like the Rams. And I wouldn't consider the Rams have got a great defense names wise. I'm can be a little bit hot and cold with them sometimes. However, they performed really well at the weekend. Offense, they have weird names like Robert Woods, who is just really good, and Tyler Higbee, that seems to be Cooper Cup. We know is really good, but they're not prime time names, and yet they look great. They make space, and if Stafford had just been on a good team throughout his career, I mean, I said 2 years ago on this podcast. In fact, no, a year ago. It was the off season 2020. I was out on Stafford. I had a big thing. It was
yeah.
like a lot of
We had
people
a
were
big we
like,
had a big debate about it. I
we
think
had a
we
big debate, and I
yeah.
said I was out. Detroit need to move on. They need a change up. Now, that wasn't me saying get in Jared Goff. Now, that wasn't my solution. My solution was go out and draft whoever it was at the time coming through, which now in my mind I can't remember who was in
It
that
would have been
draft.
last year, so it would have been the likes of Tua and Herbert and
Yes.
Burrow, and yeah,
Yeah, it would have been Burrow, Herbert, or two. Yeah, that's who it would have. And they had the third pick. They took Jeff Okuda, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, don't take that. Yeah, if you've got the third pick, go for one of them. Now, in hindsight, I think that still would have been a better move in trading him for Jared Goff, though they've got the first round picks in the future, which is interesting for their future. However, Goff doesn't look bad there. I will give him that. But Stafford, I mean, if he, how many do you think he would have won a Super Bowl by now if he'd have been on a competent team for a lot of his career?
I tell you what, if he'd have been on that Rams team 2-3 years ago, when they had
With
that
Gurley
they
and
had a fantastic O line, and they had Gurley, I think he would have won back-to-back Super Bowls with them in the years that Jared Goff nearly did it with them,
mm,
because their O line isn't as good as it was back when they had Gurley.
mm,
So, and they're still super impressive. But yeah, I think
mm.
you put him in an organization with a head coach that really knows what they're doing, and an organization that knows how to handle the NFL. I think he would have been up there with some of the great names, because his stats are more than impressive every year in a team that's struggled. So
Mm. But it's again, it's giving him a good defense as well. I mean, Jalen Ramsey's just one of the, if not the best quarterback in the league at the minute. He's just so good at the moment. Aaron Donald's obviously a beast, and they've just got really good guys on the back end as well. Even though they did lose some people like John Johnson and players like that, but they seem to be clicking. Now we'll go back to the Arizona Cardinals. What more do you want to see from them in these next coming weeks for you to be not convinced, but for you to see what you needing to see, the more substance in this team?
I think, although they're exciting, I feel like I need a bit more structure from them. I think I
Mm,
need Kingsbury to be to manage a game a little bit better, and not just,
mm,
although we've seen Russell Wilson run around and throw the ball and, you know create magic, I'm not sure we can expect that from the young guy of Kyler Murray, and I'd like to see a bit more consistency in the play calling. And then, like you say, when they come up against the bigger names, well, like I said, that after they play the Jags, they've got a string of those games. It's Rams, 49ers, Browns.
Hmm.
You know, they're all really good defenses. Like I say, the Titans defense has looked a bit ropey. The Vikings defense has looked a bit ropey. They've not faced a Rams or a Browns or a 49ers defense yet.
Hmm.
So, and they have looked a little bit like you've said, they're running around a little bit, just creating stuff out of nothing. You can't do that week in, week out. So I would like to
Hmm.
see a bit more consistency with the management of the game and see a bit more fluidity of like just playing NFL. So we'll see that when they come up against the good defenses, whether they can get it done.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting to see. We'll move on to my point. We're very much sticking in the West. You in the NFC West, and me to the AFC West. Now, this is obviously related to a little bit to the Steelers. However, I want it to not be about the Steelers because I think that would be a discredit to the team that I am going to talk about. I completely whiffed on these guys. I was very mean. Now, I did say they would only get 4 wins in the season. They're still on track to get 4 wins. I might add. I'm not wrong in that department. But I think this team is going to get a lot more wins, and they put themselves in a really, really good position at the start of the year. They're 2-0 in the AFC West. They're top of the division. The Las Vegas Raiders. I would like to talk about the whole team, but really I want to focus predominantly on their defense because I think their defense has just jumped leaps and bounds from this year to next year, from last year to this year. I am so impressed with how much this defense has stepped up against the Ravens and against the Steelers. They beat Ravens 33-27 in overtime, and they beat the Steelers 26-17. Now, they are allowing points. Don't get me wrong, they are allowing points, but they are 12th in overall points at the minute, which is good, very, very good. And I just think it just looks better. There's just this spark to it a bit more. This Yannick Ngakoue, Max Crosby on the line. Yannick Ngakoue, I don't feel he's doing that much, but I think he's doing enough to allow Max Crosby to really be the rusher that he could potentially be. But what impressed me most, especially in the Steelers game, anyway, is the secondary. Trayvon Mullen had a fantastic game. They brought in people like Corey Littleton. They drafted Trayvon Merrick. I just think this whole defense has taken the next step up. They've not nullified anyone, and they're not shutting people down, but they look like they look scary. They look like they can cause you problems. They've had takeaways. They're 10th joint in takeaways this year. I say 10th joint is about 10 to 15, but that's a link up with. So and they're also really disciplined. They've only had 10 penalties, which is the 6th best this year, which is not what you'd expect from a race team. You expect a bit of undisciplined and a bit of aggro, and that sort of John Gruden spark, that flame of fire of that heat that he seems to install in teams where it can be maybe a little bit undisciplined. But I don't think this is bad. I think this is really going in the right direction. They are not the greatest defense in the NFL. They're not a great defense. They are a very good, solid defense, but were an atrocious defense last year. They were 30th in overall points allowed last year, 30th in takeaways, 22nd in penalties as well. They were 25th in total yards given as well. This defense won't be that defense this year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be top 10. I don't think they will be top 10. But if you go from being a bottom third defense in that 32 to 28-7 range, 26 range, and go up to being the 16th best defense, 15th best defense in the league this year, I think that's progression. That's really great progression from year to year. Offensive, I was not focused on defense. I'm going to talk slightly a bit about offense. We texted about this on the night, Andrew. No run game does not help them at all. It didn't help the Steelers either because we couldn't run all night. But having Josh Jacobs injured didn't help. But Derek Carr shone. He really shone. And I think it really was do you trust me now? Do you believe in me now? Because I've just thrown against a really good... Now, Steelers defense did get a lot of injuries that game. I do admit there was more problems than I realized when watching the highlights. But he made plays. The receivers played well. There was some plays I think the Steelers were a little bit step behind. They should have made the plays there. But Derek Carr is a good, competent quarterback. I don't think he is anything that special, but he's clearly doing something. And Gruden has, for a long time, it's been this underlying thing that it's not really his quarterback. He doesn't really want him. He loved the idea of Tua in that draft. That was the big report that he wanted to go and get Tua. I don't know. I don't. Is this for me? For me, this felt like a Derek Carr, and then John Gruden after the game's going, I've always thought Derek Carr's great quarterback sort of thing. You're like, come on, man, no, you didn't. Like, you've never been like the guy that has stood up and gone like Derek Carr's a great quarterback. Now, no, you don't have to believe that, however, but as a head coach, you need to stick by your guys. And have we ever thought John Gruden really sticking by Derek Carr? I don't think we have at all, really. But Derek Carr is putting the team on his shoulders, especially the offense, because of not having the running back. And he's proving what a competent and a good quarterback he can be. I don't think the Raiders are going to win the division by no means. I think that's a vast dramatization of the AFC West. But I like the progression. I know Adam would love to be here and be like, well, it's all going to go to pop next year because he'll get brand new toys because he hates John Gruden. And I'm not the biggest John Gruden fan, but I'm just very impressed. I'm very shocked, but I'm very impressed by how the Raiders have taken this step up. And credit to them, because I thought the move to Vegas, I didn't know if they get the support in the stadium. The stadium was loud when they were there in the first game against the Ravens. They seem to have a bit of a swag going on, and I quite like it. I quite like that they're challenging. They could be a playoff team come January.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I'm on your side with this one. I have joined the bandwagon prior to this of slagging them off with you and Adam, and not really rating them. I mean, I do rate Derek Carr. I rate him in the sense that I think he's underappreciated and underrated. I don't think he's going to light up the world. But what I do like about him is he runs a good game. It's something that I said the Cardinals were lacking. The first two games of the Raiders, I feel like they have managed the game well when they've got the ball. I know in week one, a guy that we listened to over in America compared the Raiders and Ravens game against the Chiefs and the Browns game. And then he was comparing Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr. And he said the only difference between those two was how they managed the 2-minute drill at the end of the game. And Derek Carr proved he could do it. And Baker Mayfield still wasn't quite there. And they lost it right at the end. So Derek Carr proved that he can finish a game, something that Aaron Rodgers has struggled with in the past against winning teams. And that's really nice to see, because it's not something we've seen from the Raiders a lot. We've seen Raiders come out of the gate like flying, and then come the end of the games, they've lost, and you go, what's going on here? But I think there's a real structure there. The defense has come out and they're playing well, like you've said. And I feel like their schedule isn't overly difficult for them to push for the playoffs either. They've got a tough group. Yeah, they've got to play a good Broncos team that looks great at Chiefs and Chargers in their own league. But when you look at some of the other teams they play, they've got some winnable games coming up: Dolphins, Chargers, Bears, Eagles, Giants, Bengals, Cowboys, Washington. They're all really easy, winnable games. I think they've got to a good start to solidify a potential playoff place. I think for me, looking at those fixtures, that could be enough, just those games I've said, to qualify for the playoffs. It's just how well they can go into them and maybe get a bit of momentum rather than fading off like they have done in previous years. And the point back to Derek Carr, a few years ago, before he broke his ankle or leg, whichever one it was, he was fantastic. Everyone thought he was like, one of the best in the NFL at the time. And then he had that horrible injury. And now we're finally starting to see him again. So, I think we can sort of give him a bit of credit to have a couple of off years to get back to fitness and back to his mindset. So, I'm starting to think that maybe the Raiders could have a good year and maybe not mess it up like they have done in previous years.
Well, I'd hope not. That's what I mean about this game against Steelers. The positive sign from them was they had no run game. We're all quite sure that their offensive line is not as good as it was. I think we still believe that. What's his name? Alex Leatherwood is not having a good start to the season. The games, the moments I've seen him play with the Raiders, he's not having a good start to the season. Really, he's struggled, and he's been a bit of a penalty guy. He's jumped very early a lot of times from what I've seen of him. So they've not got a great offensive line, not got a good running game. They come up against a top 5 defense in the league.
Two great defenses.
You could argue Ravens are a top 10 defense, and they've controlled the game, and they've nullified. They've done well. Yes, Ravens have their injury problems with the running game, and yes, in the game, Steelers had injury problems. TJ Watt was off field. Derek Carr admitted that when TJ Watt was off field, it was a lot of pressure off of him. He said it immediately when TJ Watt's on the sideline and he's not in snaps, the pressure does alleviate off you because their best player's not on the field. Now that must give you a load of juice to be able to go, right, we can go here. And when you're putting the ball over the top of Minka Fitzpatrick for a touchdown to Ruggs, you must be thinking, wow, I could beat anyone here. One of the best safeties in the league. You've got one of the best edge rushers in the league on the sideline. It gives you that juice to push on. But much like the Cardinals, they're going to face adversity, especially in division, the same as the Cardinals in division. Chiefs twice, best team in the league by everyone's accounts. Denver twice, who we've both said are really looking a lot better than everyone expected, and I'm really happy about that. And the Chargers, who are a bit of a sleeping giant. Again, consistency problems, huge consistency problems, I think, but they are definitely on that. All 4 of these teams are very good in that division. And it's just the West. What is going on with the West? I mean, it's not been notoriously always that great over there, but like both of these divisions now are so hotly. I honestly think these 2 divisions now are more competitive really than the AFC North, which is seen next to the NFC West as the most competitive division in football. Now that I've seen what I've seen this week, within this last 2 weeks, the Browns, clearly very good team. Steelers are going to have a down year this year. They're not going to be as good. The Ravens are probably going to have a down year this year. They are not looking good. They're not looking in control. They're not looking like they can really push the wins, apart from beating Kansas. They've come and turned around, but that was a that was an error by Kansas at the end. That was Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbling the football. Again, we could argue that the Ravens still got themselves in that position, but the Ravens look like they can swing either way. The Bengals, we all know what's going on there, and they're still rebuilding and stuff like that. Is that fair to say that these 2 West divisions are the best divisions in football at the minute?
I think that's hard to say with the West, because the likes of the Raiders and the Chargers, despite them looking like they're on the up, I think they're on the up. I think whereas you look at the other West division, they're already solidified themselves. If any of them, if they went to the Super Bowl, if the Rams, 49ers, or Seahawks went to the Super Bowl, you'd be going, yeah. That's not a shock. But I think if the Raiders, Broncos, or Chargers went to the Super Bowl, you'd be going, whoa. So I don't think it's quite as they've started the season off well, and they're looking like they're progressing. So I'm not sold that I still think that North is stronger. I think the franchises of the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers at the moment are overall stronger. It's the Chiefs that pushed that group up a level, because I don't think you'd be saying that if the Chiefs weren't in there. And it was like, if you put the Jags in there, you'd be going, oh, that's an easy one to win. Something like, when you look at the Colts division, you look at the teams that are in it, and you're kind of going like, there's some good teams in there, but none of them are amazing, but any of them could win it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's going to be a long season to see what happens. Another point I would like to make, and this is like so off the cuff, I didn't tell you about this before, and I'm not even sure if it's overly true, but I'm pretty sure it's true. The 3 main cornerbacks, no, not the 3, was it 2? Surtain, JC Horn, and I don't think Caleb Farley did, but they both got interceptions this weekend. Both.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it earlier, these rookies are coming out the bat, aren't they? I mean, there has been some fantastic performances so far. Jamar Chase has looked great. Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons is looking great at the Cowboys. We talked so much in the offseason about these rookies and things like that. Like, how impressed are you by the transition some of these guys are making? Because there is some. Mac Jones is looking very solid at quarterback for the Patriots. Zach Wilson, okay, he had 4 interceptions. I would argue 2 of them weren't his fault. I think there was errors.
I mean, come on, have you watched it?
I watched 2 of them. I didn't think 2 of them. Didn't think that was. I thought were not entirely his fault.
I think 2 of them, he looked like he was throwing the ball with his eyes closed. I think at one point I saw a stat that said he had 4 completions, and 4 interceptions.
Okay, so
At the
he
time,
has not had the greatest starts, but
no, I didn't think he had a good week one either. I thought it was bolstered by the fact that the Panthers took their foot off the pedal at the end of the game, and then Zach Wilson started to play well in that game. Yeah, I'm still not sold. He looked like he was a bit hectic, like he did at college. He ran around. He was a bit hectic. He likes the chaos, and I thought a couple of those throws, I was going like, "There's no one over there."
there was one that I was like, oh,
That's not
that's so bad.
that's not one of them where a defender's made a
I
good play
I
and
would have to say
chucked
the
it.
exact same thing though about Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
I think he made 2 throws in that game. I think there were 2 interceptions he had in the last game where I was like, "There's no one there, mate. Like that's not a hole you can fit that through." Like there was definitely one. I can't think who intercepted it, and you could see where he wanted to go, but the coverage was just too good. It was like just too fast, and he was like, "Oh, you might have got away with that in college because of the speed, but these guys are too quick. They will get them." And well, I started this by saying, "Look how good the rookies have been." Now we're talking about 2 rookies. I don't
no,
feel to be
I
doing
think
that,
you're taking away
but
from that. I think
we're taking away from them too. But really, for the most part, they've
yeah,
been doing very
even
impressive.
when we've seen glimpses of Trey Lance and Justin Fields, that they both come on and look like they know what they're doing as well. They look like there's a future for both of them. You mentioned when I watched your show with Adam the other day, and you were talking about the difference between who was going to win between the Bills and Miami, and you said it was going to be whoever turns up on the defense.
Mm.
And I hate to say this, Freddie, but the guy that turned up was Gregory Russo.
He
Two
was
sacks,
great.
two
Yeah.
sacks. And you said it was going to be one of those guys. Well, you mentioned both of those guys. You know, Jalen Phillips, I think, had 2 tackles, 2 assisted tackles, whereas Russo had, I think he had 3 solo tackles, 2 assisted tackles, 2 sacks. That's another guy that's coming up. Again, a rookie. I spoke to Byron, Bills fan. I said, "What do you think of him? Do you like him?" He was like, "Yeah, I thought it'd take him time to adjust." But he
Mm.
watched the whole game and said he's adjusted in one game. These guys are adjusting to NFL a lot quicker.
Mm. There's definitely you can see. Like I said, you enjoy comparisons, and when I said which defense is going to turn up, what I said was about the 2 players, but both at Miami, from former teammates Gregory Russo and Jalen Phillips. If one of them can really show out, then that would be maybe one of the game changers. And I didn't know if Russo would get enough playing time over Hughes or Addison, which I was like, you shouldn't. I don't think you should be starting Marion Addison anyway. I think you should be starting Gregory Russo. I think you should be developing, not putting the 33-year-old defensive end
Well,
over
they're
the
both in
top
the
of him.
30s, aren't they?
Well, yeah, Joe, but Hughes is an institution. He's
Yeah.
been there a long time. He's an institution there, everything like that. But when you're getting these gameplay guys that are causing problems, especially on the defense, like I said with Gregory Russo, he looks great. Micah Parsons, I think,
Michael Parsons.
looks pretty good. They're now looking at putting him at defensive end, which I don't know if I like that. I feel like I like his coverage more than I do his pass rush ability. I feel like he could be a good menace in the middle, but they're burdened with too many
Yeah,
linebackers.
we mentioned it before the season started, didn't we? That they've got too many linebackers, but he has the ability to do that. You know, he's the size, speed, strength of a defensive end as well. You know, his teammate Jason Owe that was at Penn State with him. You know, they liken those two as being very similar. One of them's a defensive end, one of them's a linebacker. So, you know, I think he's more than capable of playing that. He's a very, very talented player, and he's an absolute athlete.
Also, Koromoa looking good as well. Not been as highlighted as I thought it would be, but he's very strong in the middle. Let's say it starts Sertain and Horn both getting an interception on the their second game, I suppose. Impressive. I'm liking Sertain. I'm quite liking.
Sertain looks very impressive. I think he's we were shocked that they took a cornerback, but he's looked impressive in that strong defense already.
I have to say, with a lot of things we've talked about in this podcast are coming to light very quickly. The Panthers are looking decent. We've said we like them. The Broncos are looking decent. We said we like them. I mean, we didn't say the Jets or the Lions were very good. Admittedly, they've not been, but they've not. The Lions haven't been. You could argue their foot was off the gas against the 49ers, I suppose. They didn't really have a look in against Green Bay, which we knew that was going to be the case anyway. We look at divisions now from only 2 weeks now. I mean, there's not loads of 2-0 teams, I suppose, really. There's a few, but there's not loads. But the NFC West, outside of Seattle, all of them are 2-0. Seattle are 1-1. What was it? Every AFC West, we talked about it. Chiefs and Chargers are 1-1. Broncos and Raiders are 2-0. The AFC North, only division from the looks of it with every team 1-1. So I don't know what that tells you about that division. Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, who's the Thursday game this week? Isn't it Panthers as well?
I had a look at this earlier. It's definitely someone I've not got any fantasy players in my lineup for.
I'm
I know
pretty,
that because
I'm
that's why I
pretty
look.
sure it's the Panthers. I'm pretty
It's
sure
Texans Panthers.
Texans Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly a nail biter.
I think that'd be an interesting game. The Texans have
Davis Mills though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very, very impressive in preseason. Yes, it's just preseason, but the show that you missed, I spoke to Adam about this when they played before they on the preview show before they played the Jags. I said Jags looked unimaginative in preseason, and Texans looked like they would they easily put up points during the preseason. I think if you're looking dynamic and putting points up in preseason, that's something to build from for more than what we thought they'd do. And it was Mills that was the quarterback at the time. So he's a bit of a wild card. I don't think he's Tyrod Taylor. He's not going to have the game management of Tyrod Taylor, but it could be an interesting game. Still, I think Panthers are just too good for that one, though. I think
Christian McCaffrey's just too good for that one. Sam Darnold's really adapting there as well, which
that defense. It looks impressive. I think no one's really talking about it for some reason. Well, some people are, but it's not being.
We definitely have. We've definitely.
It's not been shouted about as much as I think it should be because it looks very good, and the youngsters that are on there are showing up week in, week out.
The only issue we are now having in NFL, which is happening, it happens every year, and it always feels like it's happening too early. Injuries, yeah. I knew you were going to say that. Like Jarvis Landry on IR today. That's a big problem for the Browns there.
A lot of people got carted off.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been getting carted off. And it's the NFL. It's what happens, isn't it? But like, God, there's big names already. But I mean, there's niggles. That's the more annoying thing is there's just things that are niggling. Especially when I'm looking at the Steelers. Big Ben's got a pectoral strain, apparently. Everyone's got something to do with their knee for the Steelers anyway. You've had your guy, you're the center, was it, or the guard?
Yeah, well, he was our center, and he's moved back to guard. So yeah, Nick Gates
snapped his lower leg, which was a bit of a horrific injury. Jarvis Landry now on IR. Who else is?
Tua went down. He got carted off. Who they're going to start now? Their dynamics going to look a lot different than what we thought it was going to do. Didn't Burrow go off for a little bit? Did he? I missed a bit of play. I think there was a few of the quarterbacks. Andy Dalton went down, didn't he?
Yeah. Andy Dalton went down, and they're saying that Andy Dalton is starting quarterback when he is healthy, which I think means Justin Fields is going to start this weekend. Well, let's say 3 weeks. 3 weeks he will start. If he starts and he balls out and he has the game of his life, like he should do against, I don't think they're against a very hard team. Okay, they're against the Browns, but the Browns are probably going to look a bit one-dimensional. OBJ, I don't think will be there. Jarvis Landry won't be there. Hooper and Bryant, they've got Higgins as well. It's going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones. They've obviously Chubb and Hunt. I think Hunt was injured last week actually as well. Chubb, they've got a very good front seven defense. I do think the Bears could challenge there. If Justin Fields goes off, they could challenge there. I think personally.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one, especially with it if it is Justin Fields that plays. I think that lifts them a little bit. And that gives them a new lease of life. And that defense is good enough to put him in good position to be able to play freer, I think. I don't think he's going to be on his 1 yard line every single time. I think, he might get some good field positions from where his defense can put him. I think we're going to have might have a new quarterback starting in the Colts. They're a team I wouldn't mind talking about, but
Jacob Eason.
Yeah, I love Jacob Eason. I think he's real talented. Liked him at college. Liked that they sat him. There's lots. The Colts talk very highly of him. He's got a big arm. I wanted to talk about the Colts because for me, they were my 0-2 team that I think could qualify for the playoffs still.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree. They're
you
better
know,
than 0-2. They should not be
yeah, of
0-2,
course. Well,
really.
they should be 0-2. They've
Mm,
played what? They played the Rams and the Seahawks.
okay, fair, but
So, they're two games that they were in. They were in both the games.
they were in
And
both the games, yeah.
they were in both the games, and their O line is not even healthy.
Mm,
Quentin Nelson, he's only had a helmet on once and played.
mm.
Uh, Fisher, didn't know whether it. Once that O line is fit and healthy, I think that team defense is super strong. I think they've got some nice weapons. I
Mm.
think with their schedule that they've got, I think in that division they can qualify for the playoffs still.
I agree. I agree. I think there's some really good signs coming out of there, and I've not been quiet about how I've not loved their wide receiver core, and I I've liked what they're doing. I think Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman have been very impressive so far, and I was
Yeah, I
worried
think
about
Zach Pascal's always
that. Pascal's
reliable.
looking, yeah, as a reliable player. I really think they have shown some quality. Um, Again, it's these teams, like I said, though, that don't win them 50-50 games. I feel like, but maybe that's because it's just Carson Wentz's first year there. Maybe get another weapon in the off
I
season.
think they
That could
didn't
be then
win.
the
They didn't
change.
win the 50-50 games because Philip Rivers couldn't. Was too old to win the 50-50 games. And
Mm,
I think Jacoby Brissett wasn't talented enough to win the 50-50 games, which is why they always end up like 8-8 or like
mm.
somewhere around there. But I think this year I think they could qualify for the playoffs. Whether they'll do anything after that, I don't know. But as an 0-2 team, I think they're the 0-2 team for me that will push and maybe qualify for playoffs.
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna have to look at the standings now. See if I do. I firmly
Mate,
do agree.
they've got Texans, Titans, and Jags in their league. I mean, none of them look impressive. I mean,
No.
it was nice to see the Titans finally just go, do you know what? Like, we're behind. Just give the ball to Derrick Henry.
And just run all over
What
you.
team does that? What team, if you're behind and you're pushing in the fourth quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter to win a game, you should put it in your quarterback's hands and say, we need to throw this. Don't take the time off the clock. No, give it Derrick Henry. What a monster. But, their defense isn't good enough, and they've looked.
It's not look good.
No, they've
No,
got some
not.
stuff. They've got some stuff to iron out. The Texans aren't good enough. The Jags aren't good enough. So I think it's there for the Colts, who look more professional outfit to take that division.
I agree. I definitely agree. I'm very excited to see what the Colts can give us going forward. That's all we've got time for though this week. We'll be back again later in the week with the fantasy show and the Sunday preview show. I hope you all enjoyed week 2 of the NFL. Week 3 only around the corner. Lots of excitement. So much competitive teams going on. So many competitive divisions. We've talked about it in this episode. We're going to be talking about it, I'm sure, in more episodes to come. So keep watching the Franchise Tag podcast. Keep sharing it with your friends. Getting NFL fans involved with us. We're on YouTube, social media. Go give us a follow. Go give us a like. Give our videos a like. Give them a share. We just love your support. And we'll see you all very soon. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the NFL at the weekend. And we'll see you all soon. Good night.